All right, since I already talked about the Unity news, let's talk about some other news that I think is getting undercovered. So XDefiant, which is a Ubisoft free-to-play shooter, just announced that they're going to be delayed, and they're not saying exactly when. It's this vague, I don't know, sometime in the future, which is fine. Maybe they are fixing it. I saw it was a problematic, kind of tight shooter, but a lot of these kind of shooters just are trying to find their place. But if you remember, Ubisoft also released or had Hyperscape as their battle royale game that they super hyped up on Twitch and then pulled the plug on it. It never took off, right? And so I'm kind of curious with XDefiant, and then the other one would be then Embark Studios The Finals. They went for 2 betas and now they're silent. They've been silent. I don't think they've tweeted in like 4 or 5 months, which is good. Don't go on Twitter. Don't get me wrong on that one. But that's like all of a sudden they've been very quiet. And so, what does this mean for all these shooters? You can only have so many of these competitive shooters. And I know there's a bunch of other smaller studios that are going to be coming out for this. And this is that thing I was talking about the other day where there's a lot of people who are ex-Riot, ex-Ubi, who are coming out with some kind of competitive shooter. And I think it's a really hard space, man. I would be scared to be coming out with a competitive shooter these days because Counter-Strike 2 is a good game, Valorant's a good game, like Overwatch, TF2, like there are a lot of good, solid kind of arena shooters, and you really have to be doing something new and different there, right? And there's also PUBG, there's Fortnite and the Battle Royale side of things. So I'm kind of curious if anybody was looking forward, because the XDefiant was supposed to be released this month, so this is like the shocker of like that it's super quick. And the finals have been vague all along, and I think they're from DICE originally, and now owned by Nexon, and Nexon was Lawbreakers, Cliff Bleszinski's arena shooter that was not a bad game, just came out at a bad time and really paid the price, but also because you have to practice and get good at those kind of games, and so you have to decide what game you're going to put your time into. They're not like fun little throwaways, right? Like my game, I'm going to just use it as some bad words here about it. I love my games, so take this the right way. But the Anacrusis is built to be like this fun little game that you play amidst a bunch of other games because the load to play it isn't super hard, and like the versus mode is just more fun than competitive. And like we purposely do a lot of those kind of things to not try to compete directly with these other games, but instead be this game that you play alongside of it. And we've been successful for that part of it. But it's just interesting to see that these big shooters from big companies now are kind of getting a little bit of cold feet and kind of rethinking maybe their strategy of their launch or what the bar is to a launch, right? It just might be that they're holding it off because I think the bar needs to be high enough because they understand that you can't squeak in anymore, that the Rainbow Six Siege launch, which I cited before, isn't going to work, and yet you have to come in at this high level. So I'm curious if anyone is looking forward to XDefiant or the finals. Neither have been canceled, but there's both kind of in a little bit of a limbo stage, and we don't know when they're coming out. And I like this space, so I'm looking forward to trying both and probably be horrible at both, and you can kill me in both. But I'll still play. See, that's the one good thing about being bad at games. Like you play anything.